So now you've got your wall dock installed, you can obviously test to see that the gangs are working, and you can now unpack your panel and then install it onto your wall dock. It's magnetically attached, so as soon as you put it on, you'll feel it click into place. And then you need to wait a couple of minutes for the panel to then boot up. So don't expect an immediate response, but the light is good, and that shows it's coming to life. And what happens is the tap will boot into a standard off-network mode. You can see already it's the CO2 is being measured by the built-in sensors. So in the first scenario, you can then test to see if gangs are working. But a really important step at this early stage of installation is to swipe down from the top and then use the settings cog wheel, top right-hand corner, and you're going to click on Configure Wall Dock. And why this step is so important is because we haven't yet told the tap if your circuit you're connecting to is dimmable or not dimmable. And so the first thing you get is that whether you should be editing circuit 1, because remember from the installation video about whether you're installing it as on no neutral, it needs to have a dimmable circuit to be able to operate. So, does this have a neutral wire? Yes, and in this installation it does. So it now gives me the option to be able to turn this on and off to be whether it's a dimmable light or not. This is really important because what we want to do is make sure our gangs represent what we've wired into. So if we've wired it into dimmable LED lights or incandescent lights that we can dim, then you can make sure that this is enabled. We can also use this opportunity to now turn the light on, and we can then check to see what the maximum brightness we want to offer is, so that we can make sure that when it's being used by everyone else in the house, that it doesn't exceed the maximum brightness you want to offer. And that's really useful, especially with dimming, to stop any flickering or anything else going on. So once you're happy that it is set correctly, you can then click on the save at the bottom, and you can then go back to the main menu at the front. So you have your existing gangs, and you can leave it in this state where you can then dim directly on the device, or alternatively you can just leave it to on and off, and the tap is now ready to then be onboarded using the app. So now that you've got your tap up and running, you're now ready to adopt it. So the first task you've got to do is install the Tuke app, and the first step is that you're going to have to set up an account. So whatever your email address might be, and then you can click login, and you'll find that a code will be sent to you as an email, which you can then use to then log in. So we use something called a passwordless thing. Obviously Apple is very clever and finds the code for me, but it now lets me log in and now create my home. So the first thing I need to do, if I haven't done it already, is create my new home. So I'm going to call this here at our office in London, so 93. Really important to get the location. The reason being is we use that data to help make sure things like your tariffs are correct for where you live. So make sure that's correct. So I've now set up my house, and now I'm in a position where I can now add a tap to my home. The panel is on the wall and obviously all connected, and we know that works. So I can now swipe up to start, and the tap will now go into a discovery mode, which I can then initiate. And then using my phone, it will look at the QR code, and it will then connect to the tap and allow me now to start accessing the network. And now I'm going to connect to the Wi-Fi network, which will be able to give the details to the tap so that it can connect to the internet. So I select my network I want to use. I can go and click start, and now the tap will start going in. This is a really important process because every single tap we identify on our network. And so if this was already adopted and you already had installed it, we would be able to bring the configuration down from the cloud and get it pre-configured for you, so you don't have to go through all the next steps in setting it up. I can then set up the scenes and get the house ready. So now I've added my tap. The first thing I need to do is create a new room. I haven't got any rooms at the moment, so I'm going to create a living room. And I can then choose what type of room I'm connecting, so it's going to be the living room. But I could give the room any name I want. What do you call that room? That's what your room name is going to be. So I can then create my room. A really important step now is to select the room I'm selecting. So when I've got lots of rooms in this list and I'm adding another tap, I need to make sure I select the room I want to add that tap to. Put in a different room. So now I've created my room. I can now use the arrow at the top left-hand corner to swipe down, and I can now see that my tap is now installed in my living room. And helpfully, you'll see on the screen it's now updated. And what we've done is we've created two scenes. So we've created a morning scene and an evening scene. You can see at the same time I can actually make those changes directly on the app itself. So I can go in here, so I can now see the tap, and again I can control the tap and how it works, and I can see the scenes I have. I can see habitats, and I can see the gangs, which I can now individually control and individually dim. And that is your tap setup in your house, ready to be customized.